ladies. How are you today?
Good. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am so glad that you joined me this morning. And today I would like to try to talk about kindness and some of the things that you may have experienced from strangers out with your kiddos. You know, have you had other people come up to you and support you and show you that kindness? Or have you been a person that has come up to somebody else that has, you've been there and you've experienced that and you kind of gave them that nod to, hey, I get that. Or all of the above.
All of the above.
Yeah.
Same. And I think those moments are what has taught us as parents to be that person for someone else when you see someone else, because just that small thing, it could seem like it wasn't nothing to them, and it meant so much to you. We get so caught up in our world, having someone step in and sprinkle a little bit on you is like, just boost you up, you know?
Absolutely. I remember we were at Walmart and there was a kiddo that was definitely having a difficult time. And they were screaming. They were, you know, having a difficult time. And I remember being in the checkout. Well, I'd seen them earlier. And then I was checking out and they were behind us. And somebody was kind of judging them. And the cashier actually spoke up and said that child had autism and that he was having a difficult time. And I turned to the person behind me because I felt that there was this sense of judgment. And I said, you know, it takes an easy step to judge when you don't know the situation. You know, I said that person is probably just having a difficult time and we need to support them. You know, and so all three of us were kind of like, in a moment, you know, the cashier and myself were like, hey, like, this is a parent that is doing their best to a child that is struggling in the moment. And we've been there, you know, and so I was angry at the person that was having this judgment, like, can you just stop them? Instead of just saying, hey, do you need anything? Can I help you? You know?
I can recall when my kids were little, having a very difficult time. I was disheveled, to say the least, of on our way to a doctor's visit, had been up nights and nights in a row. Nobody's happy. Nobody has slept. You know, we're a hot mess. And I pulled into the doctor and I just put my head on the steering wheel. Like, I got to get myself together before we go in. Like, everybody's upset, you know, crying. I get a tap on my window. I'm looking, I'm like, I don't know this person, you know. I rolled down my window. A roll. This is how they work. Is everything okay? I'm like, oh yeah, we're here, you know, here to see the doctor. And she said, you know, it's not always going to be like this. It's going to be okay. And I don't know why, just that sentence of it's not going to always be like this just took the biggest relief off of me and made me realize that I was in a moment. We're having a moment. My whole life isn't like this. It was right now in this time and place. And I mean, both of my kids are in car seats in the back seat, you know, wailing, and I'm just like, oh. But I have shared that with other people, of stating this may be what's going on right now. It's not forever. It won't always be like this. Just being kind to someone, and it could be the smallest thing, you know, even just not judging someone, and they know you're not judging them, that goes a long way. Because it's real life. You know, it's just real life.
All it takes is that one person to roll their eyes or a smirk, or it's like that just like it already makes the difficult situation even harder on that mama, right?
Yeah.
Like it just stabs at your heart even more. Like the obvious, that you're trying to kind of put under an umbrella, trying to like keep everything together. If somebody, it hurts your heart.
Yeah.
So when somebody does step in and acknowledges that, it'll be okay. And I had a similar situation. And actually my stranger became a dear friend.
Aw.
So, yeah, and she like walked me out of a very dark, dark place 15 years ago. And yeah, she said, because my son has a physical disability as well. And she said, it is going to be okay. It might not be the exact life that you thought, but it's going to be okay. And that's all I needed. Just like Melissa said, that little tap on the window, that little phone call. And to this day, we're dear friends, and she's from Arizona and we still keep in touch. So it's amazing what the kindness of a stranger can change. Like it did something chemically to my brain. I believe it. It really did do something to my brain.
You gave me chills.
I know.
I
A
love that.
similar, story. So the year that we got the boys, AJ was in kindergarten. That's my oldest. Neither one of us are from the school district that we live in. It was only supposed to be temporary. We were actually looking to move out of the school district at that time, just because we didn't know anybody out here and we just wanted to be closer to family or whatever. So Hunter, the older one, had to be held for the whole first year. Literally, I could not put Hunter down. And my oldest had started cheerleading. It was it was her very first year of cheer, whatever. And we're at a youth football game. We don't know a single soul. Both boys, because the younger one they're a year apart. The younger one's losing it. So I'm trying to hold one. Hunter can't be set down, so I'm holding him. And the girl's name's Bree. We're still friends. Came and scooped Hunter. Never met her before. Held Hunter we were there for 2 football games. Held Hunter for the entire 2 football games. And then every football game after that for the rest of the season, she'd immediately come, scoop up Hunter, and hold Hunter for the 2 football games.
Aw.
And to this
my
day,
God.
Wow.
we stayed. My husband's now the president of that youth football association, and we're still friends with them. And that changed like the trajectory of our lives by
Aw.
staying in this district. We're super involved. Our daughter's in 7th grade now. She was in kindergarten
Wow.
back then, and we would have left had people not shown us like kindness and jumped in to help us when we were literal strangers. I mean, I had never talked to her before. And then, she would spend 4 hours
Wow.
every Sunday holding my 2-year-old to try to cut me some slack so that I could pay attention to my other kids. And so,
How selfless.
amazing.
Totally
She's an
selfless. That's
amazing
amazing.
human. She's an amazing human. And
And it's that
so,
sense of community that we're not in this world on our own. And what it took for you to be at that game and show up to be there, I can imagine was incredible just to get in the car, get everybody in the car and show up there.
Yeah.
Like I always try to think about like when you see someone in public, what did it take just to show up? Because that was part of that process, But
that
I
was
think
a rough year. You look back on it and you don't realize at the time that it was rough, but it was rough back then. Things are way easier now. Now the one that couldn't be put down runs around the football field like he owns it. And I have to track him down to feed him and stuff. So, things change, but they found a family there. Our kids found a family there. And had she not been such a kind human and came up and scooped a stranger's baby at a football game, then maybe we wouldn't have stayed, So that made a big difference in our life.
And sometimes these strangers do more and touch us more than our own blood relatives.
Yes.
Right? It's just sometimes people, there are still very good people in this world. So, but yeah, I've had instances where blood relatives, didn't do as much as a stranger.
And I think sometimes we're not as open with our families in a way of like accepting that, but it's like that little tap on the shoulder, the picking of the baby, knocking on your window we weren't expecting it. We weren't ready for it. And it was like, I don't know, you think about how people use that term, it takes a village, and it does. Our communities, we're part of that. And I think one thing that always happens is you pay it forward. And I am 100% sure that Chrissy has found herself in a setting where she went over and scooped up somebody's baby because she knows what that meant to a mother's heart, you know?
I'm the queen
And I
of a
think it takes
casserole.
so
I'm
much
showing
for us
up with
to
a casserole.
go out. You know what I mean? It takes so much for us to get the courage and go to that grocery store when we know that we might have a meltdown coming. You know, I remember so vividly sitting in the dog food aisle and Bree just having such a difficult time screaming and crying, and I couldn't get her out of that store fast enough. And the eyes and the feeling that everybody in the store was looking at you and judging you and making sure that you knew you were a horrible parent. And it was like that guilty feeling. I wish somebody would have tapped me on my shoulder and said, it's okay.
Yeah.
Because that happened so many times that I was like, I'm just not going to go to the store. You know, I can't physically take her with me to the store. You know, I wish I would have had just a stranger look at me and say, you've got it. You've got this. And
Yeah.
it won't last forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. It's rough.
This
But
for me,
even someone commiserating, saying like, "Hey, I've been there. It does happen.
Right?
There's nothing wrong with you or your kid. It's just sometimes people are overwhelmed or overstimulated. Like, it's fine. Like, don't worry about it. It's all right." That means something too, you know?
absolutely. For me, this is always like, it always makes me cry when I think about those situations and how real they are. And they're necessary. You're not like at an amusement park with a child who's having a meltdown. Not that that don't happen, but these are places you have to go. You're trying to feed your family. You're trying to pay a bill. You're trying to give this child extracurriculars. You're at a doctor's office. Otherwise, you just stay home. You would like contain it and we deal
Right.
with it at home, but we have to go out in public. It's part of life. I just, sometimes I hear things, like I hear people say things, and I'm like, so what a phrase that I taught my children, so to be in the nicest way when you're out in public and somebody's like actually being very judgmental and they're not being nice, what can you say that's going to come across as very so you're not being judgmental, right? So I just would always say some people's kids, and they might be 60, but some people's kids, like they weren't raised any better, you know? So my kids always say that, you know, like some people's kids. And it's like, we know what that means, you know, without being rude in public to other people.
I think too, something on the other, side of the spectrum here is, what we do to reach out to people that we're walking past. And I just talked about how Bree used to have a really difficult time, in the grocery store. And, I would curse out the supermarket. Can you not put the candy into the end of the aisle so that I don't have to scream at her saying, no, you're not going to get this candy? But every single time Bree is out in the community, if she sees somebody that looks good or their hair's done nice or it's a different color or they're dressed nice, she goes out of her way to let that person know, you look good today. Oh, I love your hair. I love your skirt or your outfit. Like, she does not stop. She will say to anybody she sees something that she likes about them. And it doesn't only just beam up that other person, but it really makes a certain feeling for her. She beams with light when she can be somebody else's light. And I find that that's a full circle, I think, for me, because it's like I can see that she's also being kind to other strangers.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
When her
Wow.
son was going through getting ready to go to boot camp, there, we go over to Pittsburgh to the federal building. There's all these men and women, young men and women. And like, I was thinking of like my perspective as a parent, being there and getting to see that, having to say goodbye, it's very emotional. And my husband, with him being a Marine, he was like already in that situation on the receiving end. So he had this shirt made that said dad hugs. He said there was so many kids there when he went that didn't have someone to just hug them goodbye. So he's like giving all these young guys and
You're gonna
women
make me cry.
goodbye. It just
Oh,
like broke me. But like I
wow.
never thought about that, you know? So I think sometimes we we're all geared towards parents and children because like that's what we are, you know, but that was a very, very touching thing that he did. And I'm
It's a
sure it
great
meant,
example.
you know, yeah.
And I know I really try, and I know we all do because we've been there. And I really try to be that person, that goes out of, I mean, I don't have a lot of time, but really does kind of, if I'm at the grocery store, oh, this family might need something, let's just take a little something. It doesn't have to cost a lot. Just, I know that we all, the four of us, have done it. So I like to be that stranger that, that will
Yeah.
help. It might not be babysitting your kid for 3 days, but I can, do something like Chrissy was saying, she's the queen of the casseroles. Yeah, like make me something that so I don't have to, it's just taking something off of somebody's plate when you know that they are
Mhm.
struggling is huge, is huge.
And making that eye
And
contact.
we talk to our parents about that all the time when we talk to our
Yeah.
Yeah.
families, right?
Yeah.
Helping them do that.
My husband jokes that I'm always making somebody a soup or a casserole, but it's true. Like if something's going on, I'm showing up with food because that's just the only way I know how. Which is
Yeah.
so funny. My grandmother made me soup. I have to go pick it up today after my next home visit. So my 85-year-old grandmother, she made me soup. She's like, you got to bring something to put it in. So I have to go home and grab jars. But yeah, that's the way I was taught love was food. So
Yeah.
now that's how I like show it to others.
I think too, just making some eye contact. It doesn't have to be the grand gestures in in some situations. I think it's just making eye contact with that parent and just making sure that they feel that sense of you've got this, and I'm not judging you. I feel you, I see you, and it's going to be okay. And we can simply just make that eye contact and say, you've got this, it's going to be okay. And it's not a judgment because we have so much judgment already, that we're raising children that struggle. And so that judgment is already there, and that anxiety on us as parents is also there, so that can reduce a lot of anxiety on our end.
So true.
Is there anything else that you guys do for, to support parents, to do something kind for a stranger? Chrissy does food.
I try to remind myself
Right, so that we can have food out in it.
when I'm out and about, like we get in such a hurry, like to go here, do this, go do that, get back, that kind of thing. I try to give myself remind myself when I'm going in, like I'm going into the grocery store, like look for someone that might need something. Like I got 10 extra minutes today. Maybe somebody needs help pushing their cart while, they got a little one that might be trying to jump out and mom really needs to turn her back for a second to grab something off the shelf.
Yeah.
We've gone through the grocery store, just like pick someone and just help them from the time they go in till the time they go out. And sometimes it's an elderly person, or it's like a lost guy. He's like, he got sent and he don't know what he's doing, where anything's at. Not to say anything bad about guys, but you can tell when they're like looking around, or it's a parent with kids, and you just entertain their kids while they're, trying to do something. My most recent one I had happen, I was at the gas station and I had been to the grocery store and I was kind of like talking to myself saying like, you didn't even look for anybody today. And I'm like, well, I will next time, I'm getting ready. I'm getting out to get my gas. And I look over and I see this woman. She's like trying to open her purse and she's trying to pump her gas and she's crying. I'm like, what's going on? Can I help you? And she's like, no, no. And she's just trembling. And I said, I can help you. I said, I have time. I can help you. What's going on? And her son-in-law had just passed away. And she was
Oh.
trying to, she didn't have enough gas to get to the hospital with her daughter. And she was trying to just get gas. And I said, are you okay to drive? And she said, yeah, I can drive. She's like, I can't, I don't know where my card is, you know. So I just took care of her gas, did that, got her in the car, gave her a hug, and went down the road. But I just, I felt so bad for her. And I thought all she wanted was to get gas so she can get to her kid, you know, her adult daughter. And I hope, you know, anytime I'm out in the world and I'm struggling, I hope somebody just helps me, keeps me moving, you know, helps me get to the next thing.
Mhm.
I think that, excuse me, I think that kind of reminds me, you know, that we never know what somebody is going through. And it always brings me back to Kevin Hines and, you know, that he was contemplating suicide and he just wished somebody would have asked him, are you okay? If somebody would have asked if he was okay, he wouldn't have done what he did. You know, thankfully he survived. But you just never know what's in somebody's heart at that moment, and how gracious that meaningful gesture that you went over there and just offered some gas, offered to help, and the story unfolded of a tragedy. We just never know what somebody's going through in that moment. And so, you know, not to judge, you know, take a minute and just ask if somebody needs that extra hand.
And we're also teaching like our children that are
Yeah.
with us, seeing that mom, dad, or caregiver, you know, mom is, wow, my mom just went up to that person. She doesn't even know them and is helping. That goes in their brain. It might not come out right away, but it goes in there, just like Bree, you know, when she's doing amazing things when she sees someone. Yeah, that's what sticks with me with some of those things. Like your littles are always watching you. And even when they're a little older, they're still watching you and they're like, you know, so you want to put good out there because, you know.
Yeah, and I think right now there's a lot of things going on that we can easily, you know, just come up to somebody and just make a comment, you know, a compliment, not a compliment, you know, because there are a lot of things going on in the world right now that is heavy. So be that person that can, you know, be there for somebody else.
And I think after going through COVID, where we had that social isolation, even to go to the grocery store, you're wearing a mask. Winter, kind of having a hat on, staying 6 feet away from people. Like, we got to actively get back into engaging with our world around us and seeing people and talking to them and being kind. We all need it.
I think we should also make a mention that as we're recording, it is 9/11 and it is an anniversary of 9/11. And, you know, the world that was after 9/11, we were there as a community, we were there for people. And I think that that's also something that we just need to get back to and recognize that we are better as a community and if we're there for people.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. We're just
Well, I think
passionate about what we do. We have the opportunity to help parents, and it's like a dream job to come into a person's life in that moment. And one thing that I always tell my parents, I know this was not your first call. I know you've already done a million things. Like you've exhausted everything you could possibly do, you know. And I think it's not easy to reach out and ask for help, you know. So I'm always so proud of the parents when they do, because I know it's not easy.
Well, I know that you are a busy bunch. So, do you have any last recommendations, any final thoughts on your end?
I think we covered a lot. I just think that the parents that do reach out to us, we are always trying to we put our best foot forward, and we always come with love and kindness. And we are there to help on your journey. So just know that we are true, and we will help and be kind as family support partners.
Absolutely. And when in doubt, if you're like, should I do this? Should I not do it? Just do it. I've never once regretted doing something nice for someone ever in my life. So if you're thinking on the fence, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, just do it.
Wear that heart on your sleeve. Be the person that you might have needed, and like Christy said, I don't think there's, anybody that would say, oh my gosh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I think that anybody is going to feel that warmth and acceptance from somebody that just shows up. So I would just say show up.
Awesome. Right. Just show up. That's awesome.
All right, ladies. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Have a great day, everyone.